You ever hear of Stardew Valley? Probably not. It's kind of a niche, unknown indie game. I fucking hate that shit. Now look, don't click off. It's supposed to be a slice of life, but it has all these almost survival game mechanics. I prefer things simple. I don't really want to craft or farm or dungeon crawl or mine or fucking come inside a bitch and get her pregnant or any of that shit. I don't think there's anything actually wrong with the game, it's just not my thing. I prefer Animal Crossing's simple but effective mechanics and gameplay loop, and I think it looks way better visually. I don't like these kind of realistic sprites. And that absolutely is important, by the way. Like, half the appeal of those games is just making your little area look nice. But none of that really matters. Animal Crossing isn't my favourite in the genre either. I don't like it because you can move around and talk to people and do shit, and it's a video game, and I hate video games. I'm retarded. Okay, Tomodachi Life. Tomodachi Life is also kind of a life sim game like Stardew Valley and Animal Crossing, but it's a bit different as you don't control any character really. You just kind of act as an omnipotent being and look over your little guys. It's not really like The Sims either, since in those games you at least have some control over your characters. You can like fuck with your guys and force them to do shit. You can set them on fire and stuff. In Tomodachi Life, your guys basically do their own thing and you just kind of give them advice. It's a real standout in the genre. It has its own issues, but it's extremely unique, and what it does right I love. It's better than the cozy farming slop that gets shut out each year by indie developers. I hate lazy, ungrateful indie developers. I'm just fucking around, but it is kind of sad how much derivative and uncreative stuff there is in the genre. Harvest Moon's been doing this shit since 1996, there has to be more ideas. Speaking of the genre, what the fuck is the genre? Farming sims are now kind of considered a genre themselves, but I don't know, that seems too niche to me. Also, Animal Crossing doesn't have farming, at least it didn't until the fucking new one. But it definitely feels like it's in the same category. So what genre is Animal Crossing? I was always under the impression it was a life sim, and I still do think this is kind of the best answer, but I want to do a little deeper dive. It's actually supposed to be a social sim, which coincidentally includes games like Persona. This includes most of the ones that were under life sim like The Sims, Animal Crossing and Harvest Moon, but I don't really think games like Persona count. So the way I see it, the genre is like a Venn diagram. So I mocked this up, kind of showing my rough thoughts. Games like Persona and Yick aren't life sims because they have a defining endpoint. Although they technically do simulate life, it's only one guy's life in a story. All other games in the category can last as long as you want them to, and you can choose from multiple characters. And I couldn't think of any games that have both farming and social elements but don't also have life ones. I don't know, I just wanted to express this kind of wider category I had in my head. Really, it doesn't fucking matter, but I'm not calling that shit cozy sim games. Anyway, I'm talking about Tomodachi Life, except I'm fucking not doing that. I'm doing Tomodachi Collection first. It's on the DS. It's like the first entry in the series, I guess. But I don't know, that doesn't really feel right to me. I don't think enough really changes across entries to qualify it as another one. They're more like different versions of the same game, except Collection is shittier, but it's still, you know, an important entry point in the series, so I want to talk about it. First of all, yes, I'm using an emulator. I don't have a capture card and Tomodachi Collection was never localized, so I have to use the fan translation anyway. And I'm not gonna do some retarded bit where I'm like, I sure hope the Nintendo ninjas don't come after me. Like they fucking give a shit about my 3-view YouTube channel. I hate when people do jokes like that, acting like emulation is even a crime at all. Or even downloading games from like Vim's Lair or CD Romance, like there's any real life basis for that at all. At worst they go after the source, but they usually won't even do that. They did that shit with Vim's Lair like really recently, and it was cause people fucking talked about it too much. I still can't believe they got Vim. It was my go-to as well. I know I'm technically breaking my own rules by talking about it now, but I have like 1 subscriber, dude, who cares? Basically, you can do whatever the fuck you want and it doesn't matter. I'm evil and I steal the food off of indie developers' plates. I downloaded a copy of Persona 4 and I burned it onto a CD. I'm gonna replay that shit on the CRT I got from my attic. You start off in the Me Maker menu. I like the Tomodachi Life UI. I like the mix of pastel, yellow and oranges. The game's cover art is also nice. I prefer collections to Life's. I love the salmon color. I like the more minimalistic Mii designs compared to Life. That game has these really fancy, high quality detailed renders. I have to make a character that looks like me first. I think that this captures my likeness pretty well. What? I'm a fine and upstanding Blasian gentleman. The rest of these options don't really matter. They let you choose your blood type, which I thought was kind of weird. You can only choose this in Collection and the Japanese version of Life, and was localized out in other versions. I looked into why, and it's because Japanese people see blood types kinda like how we see star signs. It's kind of interesting. I don't even know my own blood type. Now you can choose your Mii's voice, but because it's not localized, he just makes funny little Japanese noises. I like their funny little voices though, and it carries over pretty well over all of the regional versions. You can customize all of the voices how you want to make them high pitched and stuff. I was kinda curious where all the voices came from as well. Based on how it pronounces certain things, it's clearly some sort of TTS. This may sound like a pointless and autistic thing to care about, but I actually wasn't the only one who cares about this. Thanks to this GBA temp thread from Genius Philosophers, Leafy is here and X Dark Mario. They found the source of the TTS, and it's actually not very interesting. They're from Nuance, an AI solutions company. You probably know some of their voices. They have like the fucking MLG guy. The Japanese version's a bit different because the voices aren't located in the same location as they are in other versions. Presumably the Japanese voices are built in, since the voices were reused for both versions and are also used in this DS cookbook game. You like made pasta and shit, and there was this little chef guy who talked to you, but really it doesn't matter that much. Not to sound like an asshole or anything, but do you ever think how little time we have to spend in this beautiful world? I'm probably on the fucking second monitor right now. Man, fuck, whatever. Anyway, next you get to choose where your Mii stands on a scale of 5 attributes, which will give you one of 16 personality types. The personality types are divided into 4 groups: cool, dry, calm, and fun, with each of the groups having 4 subcategories. These groups affect how compatible Mii's are with each other. Anyway, I'm really cool. I got like the worst one. Dry seems like kind of an odd word. I'm sure the original word in Japanese doesn't exactly match any English word. Look, I'm not dry, alright? I'm wet. I'm like the video of the monkey pissing in his own mouth. I'm like that, okay? Anyway, after finishing the Mii, an apartment for him to live in shows up. This is where you can visit and interact with your Mii's. Giving myself a visit, apparently I'm lonely, just like my revolting chud incel life IRL. So I have to make myself a hot babe to oogle at. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Oh, I have to make her age. A gulp. I was just playing, don't worry fellas, she's 18 years of age. The ideal age for me to fuck and shove my penis inside of and cum. Look, okay, I'm sorry about the penis and cum stuff. I haven't been feeling myself lately. I think I've been possessed by some sort of ghoul. I need to get professional ghost behaviorist, the irate gamer, on the case.
Weird paranormal things happen where we had an entity kind of come in and wake us up in the middle of the night and mutter the words, "I can't breathe." Now what's weird about this is that the very next day, all over the news was George Floyd.
Now's a good time to go through the gameplay loop. This little symbol on the window of the apartment represents a Mii with a problem, such as wanting new clothes or food or whatever. Your Mii's just kind of walk around and do their own things, and you're like an empath or something, so you have to go around and help them with shit. The first problem you get is asking for food, which triggers the opening of the convenience store. You can buy food and sometimes drinks here. Going back and solving the Mii's problem by giving him food gives you money in return to buy more shit, and also increases the satisfaction level in the hunger meter of the Mii. Increasing the satisfaction meter can level up your Mii. When they level up, you can give them new rooms, songs, items, and other things. The hunger meter is just there for realism, I guess, and to stop you from repeatedly feeding a Mii to level them up quick. It's basically just about managing everyone's shit like a human ant farm or something. It's kinda weird, but something about it definitely clicks with me. Right now I want to talk some more about where the gameplay's idea even came from, because the game's development was pretty unique. The game was produced by this guy Yoshio Sakamoto. This guy's pretty big, you might have heard of him. He's had some pretty big roles in the development of most of the Metroid games. He's worked on WarioWare, Rhythm Heaven, Famicom Detective Club, the fucking Snoopy Game & Watch. The idea for Collection first came about a while before when he worked on another game, Totoko Hamtaro Tomodachi Daisakusen Dechu, roughly meaning Hamtaro, the Great Friendship Plan in English. I don't know anything about Hamtaro other than he's cute as shit, but the game basically worked as a little fortune-telling app. You could put your friend's information into these little hamsters, like the Miis, and see who would have good luck that day and who was compatible with each other and stuff like that. They thought it was a good idea that could catch on, but the game was mostly limited to Hamtaro fans. I haven't actually played the game myself, but I can't say it looks great. It doesn't really offer anything except for the fortune-telling thing. You can look at Hamtaro going around in his cage and he'll occasionally talk to you, but that's about it. It wasn't really much of a game in the first place, but Sakamoto and this guy Ryutaro Takahashi thought a game like this could appeal to Japanese horoscope bitches. Originally, it was going to be called Fortune Telling Notebook for Adult Women. The fortune telling part on its own wasn't really enough for a full game though, so they decided to add little characters you could make. This is actually how Mii's first came about. It's kinda weird for a console that isn't really associated with them at all. And I guess there were other personal avatar ideas being thrown around here and there before Collection, but this is the first time it really got put into practice. Anyway, it was at that point that the guys realized that appealing specifically to adult women was, retarded. So they started shifting the project to something with a bit more universal appeal. The focus on the fortune-telling stuff shifted to just watching your little characters fuck around. You can still use it to make little versions of your real-life friends and obsessively stalk them. Or you could try and make yourself fuck and come inside of Chie Sadanaka from Persona 4, like me. That's more normal, that's the normal one. I'm not weird! Whatever, I do think the game is only the way it is. Because of the unique conditions it was developed under, it makes it at the very least a very interesting and unique game. This is pretty much the one piece of universal praise it seems to get, even from people who don't really like or understand the gameplay. And yes, I know this term is used to fucking death, but it is legitimately a very cozy game. Something about being a third-party observer, just looking over these little guys is very comforting to me. More than fucking farming. Look, I'm Irish, I don't know if you could tell. I have kind of a weird accent, it comes through on some words, but less on others. My granddad was a farmer in Meath. Smells like shit. There's fucking rust and shit everywhere. Yeah, maybe think about that next time, women, when you're playing Stardew Valley on your pastel pink Switch before posting on Tumblr. Except if you're like that and watching this video, in that case you can hit me up on my social media page, please. Alright, back to the game. These little signposts here are areas on the island that are under construction. In order to unlock more features, you have to add islanders and solve problems. I need more Miis to progress in the game, so I may as well add some. After adding all my favorite anime girls and Cory Delaminguez to the island, I just have to solve some of the Mii's problems. There are a bunch of different problems Mii's can ask you to do, other than just asking for shit like food and clothes. They can have other problems like asking for phrases to say when they feel certain emotions, and asking you to scratch their back, which has you play a little mini-game. Speaking of mini-games, these are a big part of Tomodachi life. They're the parts that require the most active engagement. Mii's will beckon for you to play with them and have a green icon on their window. You do their little game for a few seconds, and if you win you get items. They're decent little pace breakers from the normal gameplay loop, but I wish there were more. There's only a couple and you get very used to them after a while. Okay, there's some new stores opening, fellas. The clothes store and the interior store let you give clothes to your Mii and customize their apartments. The apartments are the most expensive things you can buy. Finally, my guy can get out of my psychopath isolation room and into a respectable studio apartment. You can get a bunch of unique rooms. You can let your Mii go to fucking Arabia. You could go around on camels. Get your Mii legs blown off by the Mii Taliban. Anyway, the apartments are kinda cool. You can spy on your Miis and they'll invite friends over and play games and stuff if you give them the level up items. So after a while it'll feel real lively. Okay, I want to talk a bit about the title screen here. I really like it. The sounds of the beach and the birds in the air with panning shots of the island is great. It gives the island a sort of calming atmosphere. I also like that you can see the window icons from the screen. That way you can kind of just check in and see what kind of problems your Miis have before you decide to start playing. I like how the island looks in general. All the little models for the buildings look nice. They all have their own kind of personality. I like that they put a little bit of extra effort into making the island feel real. While you're just overlooking the island, clouds will fly overhead and water flows at the shore. The skyline will change based on the time of day, and sometimes things like birds or a plane will fly overhead. They don't really matter that much, but I like little details like these. One of the things I like the most about life is just watching these walk around in different locations in the island. The only place this happens in Collection is at the fountain. You can occasionally see Miis walking around here, and there's also events that sometimes occur. Miis can take English lessons, and also do this thing called Street Live where some Miis will perform music. This has some really nice remixes of the game's soundtrack. An interesting little thing I found out while reading this interview with the developers is that the guy who composed the game, Daisuke Shiba, originally had the OST be more beautiful, but was asked to change it to fit more with the game's mood. And the Street Live events have more of what he described as beautiful music, which means these little songs could have been like the first draft for the game's soundtrack. It's cool to see stuff like that, though I think where the game ended up with the soundtrack is more fitting. Some of the tracks are a bit dramatic for a game like this. The fountain also has a market in the morning and allows you to collect donations from the citizens once a day so you don't run out of money. I guess I should talk about all the other buildings now. The next one is the rankings board. This ranks all your Miis in a bunch of different categories. There's obvious examples like who is the most popular, but also ones like ranking different Miis by their fortune that day, which is one of the features carried over from the development. Put a surprising amount of detail into it, which I like. Each ranking has their own theme. I like this shitty little song that plays when you're just looking at the rankings board with the light flickering and stuff. The song kind of even uses sound effects which sound like a light bulb flickering. It's great. It's like a Mori. Does the line in that game even flicker? I don't even remember. Look, I know there's a light bulb, I remember that part. It's next to the tissues for coming into, the laptop for pornography, and the cat for coming inside of. Is that actually what those tissues are for? I know in the game it was some gay line like wiping away your sorrows, but it definitely looks at first glance like they're for coming into. Like the implication there is that he's beating all. Since I'm a serious and professional YouTube creator, I looked into it for at least like 5 minutes and found out that was what they were for in the webcomic, but they were pussies and removed it. I need to be able to beat off in the sequel. Maybe that would make it an actually good game. The webcomics were alright though. I don't know what the fucking context behind them or anything like that was. Some of them were pretty funny, but I don't know if they were meant to be taken seriously or not. I like that they're like animated with the light bulb flickering and stuff. Back to Tomodachi Collection. 2 of the ranking boards are based on how compatible characters are. This isn't based on the relationships in game, instead it's based on the compatibility tester. Another fortune telling thing. This uses Mii's info to calculate compatibility. It's pretty simple, measuring relationships in percentage, but it has different little animations for the ranges. The last of the fortune telling features is next to it in this little tent. It decides each character's career, also based on the Mii's details. It's a pretty simple premise, but there are like dozens and dozens of different jobs you can get. It's not really a very important feature, but it gives it a bit of novelty. The jobs are also divided by gender. That's right, no fucking hole is gonna change my gas. Wipe the cum out of my rear exhaust. It's from when I fuck my car. I'm saying I have sex with my car. Are you listening? The last of the mini-game buildings, as I'll call them, is this one, the question hall. In the building, you shockingly ask questions. Here you can write down and vote between two specific options, or you can use these preset questions to basically play Mad Libs with, and have Mies decide whether or not they agree with it. The voting one is pretty simple, but it's a great idea and one of the strongest mini-games. It's supposed to be for like making decisions. So you can choose to like dump all of your grandmother's inheritance money on Pepe Groiper coin. There's obviously one question you have to ask in this scenario. I of course have no stake in this race because I'm gay and I like guys, but the Mies probably can't give an accurate answer either. There's no tits or ass anywhere on this thing. Imagine having to fuck this. I don't know, it has eyelashes, so there's probably at least several thousand people who do want to. I don't think I went over mean news yet, so I'll do that. It basically gives you announcements about your island, like when new buildings are unlocked or upgraded. There's also reports which take place every morning and evening, which are basically just jokes. It also reminds you literally every time you quit without saving. Even if you saved like 1 second ago, it'll still play the announcement when you restart the game. It may not sound that bad, but it's pretty annoying. Literally all of the comments on the news theme OST are about this. Speaking of building upgrades, the apartment building will get upgraded in intervals as you add islanders. Each remodeling has a different design, with up to a maximum of 100 islanders on your island, which is pretty fair. I've never used up all the slots in any of my playthroughs. Okay, last building is a pawn shop where you can sell items you get from playing games with your Mies. The selections of buildings in this game definitely feels limited. Having so many of them being dedicated to these kind of uninteresting gimmicks is sort of disappointing. I like that each one of these buildings has their own feel to them, but they definitely could realistically all just be combined into one building or be a part of another. Outside of all the buildings though, Mies can also interact with you and each other in the apartment building. This is the big selling point. It's in the title, Friend Collection, and that's what it is, a collection of my real life friends in the real world. Alongside the other problems that I discussed, Mies will also occasionally ask for your permission to make friends because they're little cuckolds. From there, Mies relationships will increase or deteriorate. You can check the status of a Mies relationship in the top screen of their apartment. If a Mies relationship with a friend is low, then they could get into a fight. Steam comes out of their ears and they start stomping around and shit. You have to feed them food and buy them clothes until they get their shit together and go try and make up. Their apology will be either accepted or rejected. If it's accepted, it'll all be fine and they'll go back to being friends. But if they get rejected, they start taking Xanax. Just kidding, you actually give them like 3 fucking pieces of candy and they're fine. They don't fucking care. The next thing that can happen is romance, and there's even a new icon on the window of the apartments. Mies can date each other if you give them your permission, which is like actually being a cuckold. Romance options are pretty rare. They usually won't happen for a few days or even weeks IRL, so it makes sense the credits in each game are locked behind romance options. When they ask, you can tell them how to act during their confession. Where to go, what to wear, what times they should stay in their room and play Switch with the volume turned up. You know, stuff like that. Whether they're accepted or rejected is based on how close their relationship is. In Collection, all this does is open a ranking board. A girl popularity board is opened if it's a girl being confessed to, and a boy one for vice versa, as well as allowing Mies to get married. This also happens randomly when 2 Mies in a relationship are close. If a Mies relationship with his girlfriend is low because he's beating her or whatever, they can decide they want to break up. If this happens, you can accept it or try and resolve it. In Collection, if they break up, they can never get back together again. If it's going good, they'll decide to get married. The way marriage works in Collection is very different from how it does in life. The 2 Mies in a relationship will each have a heart on their door, and they'll just tell you that they've already gotten married. You can't affect this in any way. It's good they're showing some initiative, I guess. After this, they'll get married and a credit sequence will roll with pictures of the couple. After that, they go on a honeymoon, which is identical to the travel ticket item. It's sort of an anti-climax. You'd think they'd at least unlock a ranking board or something. There's no tense proposal event or anything like that, and the Mies being married doesn't do anything other than changing their status. It's kind of lame. I want more interesting shit to look at, or at least something that's worth waiting potential weeks for. My overall thoughts on the game were still fairly positive though. Even coming from Life, which is basically a direct upgrade, it still has some merits in its own right. The soundtrack being arguably better is a big one. I think its simplicity can be pretty charming in a lot of ways, even though it definitely doesn't help when the game's biggest problem is its lack of lasting novelty, but I'll get more into all of that later. It's absolutely a worse game, but it's still alright. If you've only played Life, I'd give this a try. Okay, I've covered all that I wanted to go over about Collection. Hey fellas, it's me, the Quavius D Rest again. That's my real life name. I really like Tomodachi Life. Originally released in Japan as Tomodachi Collection Shin Saikatsu, it was made by Sakamoto and Takahashi, the previous developers of Collection, as well as 2 other directors helping out this time, Noriyuki Sato and Isaku Nakai. The project was more focused and had a bigger scale. It was like a much bigger team, and this time they weren't just riffing it out from the weird fortune-telling shit. As I said in my last video, it's basically a different version of Collection rather than a new game entirely. But there's a huge amount of changes and stuff I want to go over. Just starting the game from the first time, I really like the song that plays here on the loading menu before the game starts. I almost caught myself saying that it sounded good for no reason, but I honestly kind of fucking hate when people say stuff like that. This game's soundtrack dead ass goes hard for no reason. It's fucking bullshit. Every song in a game's soundtrack should be good. What, are they gonna make it bad on purpose or something? Getting into it, I decided to name my island after the only God-fearing, patriotic nation left in this world. I also have to recreate my likeness again. Oh fuck the crossfaces. I'm emulating the game again like last time. Since the DS didn't have a native Mii maker of its own, Tomodachi Collection had one built into the software. This isn't the case for Tomodachi Life. There is a fix to it though, and it's pretty quick and easy, so there's no worries. A lot of the same stuff mostly happens in the beginning of both games. I'm not planning to rethread on any of the stuff I covered in the last video, so I'm gonna jump right into the differences and the stuff unique to Life. Starting with some of the smaller stuff, a lot of the storefronts are more detailed, having like a little fan blowing in the summer, and a bunch of small details for all the different holidays. I love how niche some of them are. There's obvious ones like Christmas and Halloween and stuff, but also ones for like the fucking 1st May bank holiday and the September equinox, and regional exclusive ones like the Super Bowl and Australia Day. It rules that some guy in the development team cared enough to do this. Alongside the food, apartments and clothes store, they also added a hat store this time for the homosexual Miis. Hats are a cool addition though. They can be bought on their own or as part of a costume and mixed and matched as you like. Coming over from Collection, you'll notice the shopkeeper, which had a bag on his head, is replaced with a robot. There are actually different shopkeepers in every regional version of the game. The bagheads stay in Shin Saikatsu, woodheads for the American version, and a motorcycle helmet for the Koreans. You'd think they like riding around on motorcycles over there, before returning to their beautiful, prosperous, state-mandated apartment building. The apartment shop is mostly the same. Some of the buildings have gotten a bit more detailed, I suppose. When you give a room to a Mii, you can now look around it in a first-person view. It's kinda cool. It's like I'm really there. There's a lot of extra small stuff added that I like. Alongside just asking you for food and clothes, they now sometimes ask you random questions about like your day and what you have going on and stuff. They're a lot less robotic, which is nice. There's more mini games you can play this time, most of which aren't repeated from Collection. Stuff like the game where you have to guess a food based on hiragana air writing would obviously be impossible to adapt to English speakers. One thing that's sort of disappointing about them though is a lot of them are these quiz type games. And not like rock, paper, scissors or red light, green light, which are more realistic games you would play with someone. They just have these signs with like pixel bullshit on them, asking about like date of births and shit. They feel super disconnected. It's better when you're actually interacting with the Mii yourself. When Miis level up in this game, you get mostly the same options as you did in Collection, with the exception of one new option, pocket money, where you can give your Miis a certain amount of money towards going to space. I'll go over that later though. The song gift was in Collection, but it got a major rehaul in Life. Giving a Mii a song opens a new building, the concert hall. In Collection, Miis just perform their songs in their apartments. Now Miis can perform songs in groups, and there are elaborate dance sequences with sets and stuff. There's not much to say about it other than it being pretty funny, I guess. Okay, I'll go over this now. After you've played for a certain amount of time, just midway through your gameplay, the game will ask you to choose a Street Pass export item. It gives you a small quiz to choose your item. This quiz lets you choose one exclusive item you want for your island. You're supposed to Street Pass around with other islands in order to collect all of them. I chose the shrimp hat. It's pretty cool. Anyway, this feature doesn't fucking matter, not in the year of our Lord 2024 anyway. Once the quiz is done, it does unlock the port though, which I've always kind of liked. Ports are kind of cool locations aesthetically, and it's always kind of mysterious since street passes are so uncommon. It just kind of does nothing most of the time, but you can still like go into it and just listen to the sea and stuff. In life, friendships are a little different. They now have their own unique orange icon on the window so you can tell them apart from normal requests. These icons appear when Miis want to make friends or when they get into fights and a few other things which I'll talk about later. Though the actual process of Miis making friends has mostly been kept the same. No, you fucking don't. You just fucking met him, dumb bitch. I'm gonna talk about Mii news now. I didn't go over it as heavily in Collection because half of the reports were untranslated. There are reports whenever there's an announcement for the opening of a new building. Alongside those are the daily reports, which are basically a bunch of templates featuring random islanders and items to create new stories each time. I like them, they can be pretty funny, but I think it'd also be cool to do special ones for like festivals and holidays or whenever Israel bombs another children's hospital. The observation tower is opening now. This is a new building in life and is pretty unique in general. The only actual function of the location is so that you can play the Quirky Questions minigame, which is brought back from the question hall in Collection. This building actually isn't even in the Japanese version of Life. There it's replaced with the roof of the Mii apartments. So technically it's a whole new building exclusive to the European and American versions of the game. But honestly, I'm kind of a sucker for rooftops, so I think I like that one better. I still actually have a lot of respect for the amount of effort that went into the observation tower though. Miis can play tennis and skate and shit at the observation tower where they would usually be on the roof. So they also modeled a whole new tennis court and little ground area just for these items to be used. The mini games from the question hall are this time on the tower as I mentioned before, and the voting one being on the beach. I'm glad they're not taking up a whole building spot on their own though this time and are built into others instead. There are some small tweaks to them, such as having an option to autofill answers and quirky questions and having 4 different boxes to vote in Judgment Bay. I'm gonna get into some of the romance stuff now. Confessing is the most similar to Collection and is mostly identical to that game, other than the few new locations you can confess at, and 1 or 2 new options you can get your Miis to confess with, like a custom made line, or by offering something, like food, an item, or a chance to make it big in the entertainment industry. The real difference between games here is the actual impact it has, where in Collection you only get a shitty little rankings board, while in Life you unlock 3 whole new buildings. I think compared to Collection, the progression system in Life is a lot more satisfying, though it's still not perfect, but I'll talk about it in more detail later. Sorry to say I'll talk about it later so much. There's a lot I want to get done, but I also want it paced out right, you know? I really like to fuck my car. Oh, holy fuck. Sorry fellas, the microphone was left on there, don't know what happened. Anyway, the buildings it unlocks are all on this little island off to the side, called the Leisure Island. This is when the game starts opening up a bit. These buildings will have small features like occasional markets, events, and mini-games, but their main purpose are just really as locations that Miis can hang around at. You can often see Miis visiting here just to walk around and do stuff. It just makes the island feel way more alive and populated, where in Collection, buildings like the question hall and shit just looked out of place. Like there's no park, but there's this little fucking gypsy tent I can go to, get my fucking family cursed for 3 generations. Who wants that shit? I like that it edges you a bit with this. I'm sure there are people that think it'd be better if everything was unlocked from the beginning of the game, but I feel like that would kill a huge amount of the motivation to keep playing the game. and certain buildings wouldn't even be usable right from the beginning. I do enjoy the gameplay itself, but it is nice to have a bit of motivation to keep playing. You know, it's what they do in the majority of similar games. Animal Crossing is like a prime example of this. It also adds a decent amount of excitement to having these romance events happen for the first time. Locking these 3 specific locations behind romance as well also makes sense, since they're locations that Miis can go on dates in. One thing I also like is that if a Mii gets depressed for some reason or something, sometimes friends will take him out to a cafe to cheer him up. I like that the Miis do more than just stay in their apartments all day. Okay, let me go over some of the events. One of the more detailed ones is Tomodachi Quest, which is built into the amusement park. You play this little RPG with random Miis, and if you win you get a moderately expensive item. All the enemies in it are food. The game in general just loves throwing in food in random places, like dreams and news reports and here. I honestly don't mind though, cause it's kinda funny. The fountain, like in Collection, still has plenty of events. The morning market is carried over from Collection along with 2 new ones, the Rap Battle and Word Association. The Word Association one is pretty weird. It was cut from the American version but kept in the European one, so I remember it from my playthrough. Whenever it happened I was always confused as shit and thought the Miis were just babbling random items, but it turns out it's based on the last letter and first letter of the word, so like apple to escargot to tea and shit. I never realized this in my tiny little mind, even after probably hundreds of hours of playing. It's not like entirely my fault though. It's definitely more of a Japanese thing. I know because of that one episode of Nichijou where they're playing a game doing drawings based on the last Japanese symbol. Yuko and Mai, I love those fucking guys. They're my best friends in real life. Oh my god, I love fucking my car. The Rap Battle. What is this, for blacks or something? If they wanted to appeal to that demographic, they could have just made the game cheaper. Oh, come on. Fucking homos, you're beneath me. You're nothing compared to me. Oh, what's going on? This was added for Americans, but is also in the European version, so that game technically has an extra event. They also made the coin box where you can get donations once a day, a piggy bank, because they think Westerners are too stupid to know what something is without it being spoon-fed to them directly. We have donation boxes over here too for like charities and shit. I'd like to stick my cock in one of those, give them a real donation. Fucking children with cancer. Oh, I don't know what's going on. I'm not well. I don't know what's happening. Events are mostly silly things like this, but they make the island feel more lively. Like magic shows and barbecues and stuff. Wait, is that blackface? Why was this game's main controversy over not having gays? What they really should have been worried about is the black shit. Fun factoid, there's a dream where you dip Miis in paint, and they removed the black one in the American version. Anyway, there are also markets on in the park which sell random clothes at a reduced price, and one in the evening in the amusement park which gives you a random lucky bag of items for €100. The items inside could be worth less or more than what you pay, so it's a bit of a surprise. It's like a gacha game. You play those? Don't answer, I already know you do. Probably beat off too much. Don't shower so you can get natural pheromones. Don't worry about it though, really. All the events happen at specific times each day. This gives you an incentive to play every day or at certain times to catch certain events and stuff. The compatibility tester is still here, now with this new feature called a compatibility forecast, which I basically never used. It's more fortune telling shit, I suppose. The original tester is also brought back, and there are some really nice tracks composed for each percentage range. The island feeling livelier is one of the biggest upgrades across versions. It's what makes this game really special to me. There are so many new locations in life where Miis can just sit around. On the map menu, a little symbol will show whenever a Mii is visiting a location, and you can just watch them do whatever. In Collection, it was never really explained why you're looking over these guys like you are, but in life you have an office where you can view your islanders' stats and stuff, like the quality of the island, the ratios of male to females, and the crime statistics. In Collection, this was just a sign on the side of the apartments, but in life this little office is here, with a computer and stuff, kind of implying you're looking over all your little Miis through security cameras or something. It does kind of make sense since a lot of these camera angles are weird, though obviously locations like a beach having security cameras doesn't really make sense. In Life, they also added a new type of fight, which is more serious compared to the normal one. It's pretty cool because it's so rare that the average player will never have it happen to them, just having your Miis go fucking Super Saiyan out of nowhere. The difference between this and a normal fight is a friend has to intervene between the two Miis to solve this one. You just have to wait for them to intervene since you can't solve it on your own. In a future sequel, one thing I'd want to see is way more random events like this to add some variety. When you repeatedly get Miis fighting over and over and asking for stuff, you eventually just stop caring and don't even bother helping them. Life improves over this from Collection, but could still be improved greatly. Okay, marriage. This is one of the points where Life deviates from Collection heavily, but not in a bad way. The massive anti-climax marriage was in that game has been made into something much more significant. Miis now have to propose to their respective partners before they can get married. You have to play this mini-game where you press this button at the right time when the Mii being proposed to is thinking about their partner. If you fuck up, you'll lose one of these hearts that acts as lives, so you only have 3 shots and need to get the timing right 4 times. It's actually not as easy as you think it would be, since sometimes they'll try to fake you out. And the dumb chud Mii can't stop thinking about bullshit. Girlfriend's right fucking there. I can't wait to go home and play PlayStation. Anyway, I did it. It's pretty tense with the soundtrack having like heartbeat noises and stuff playing the closer you get to the proposal.
Will you marry me?
I think it's actually handled really well to make it an actually memorable moment. What I'm wondering is what I'm doing in there with them. Like in the little fucking Ferris wheel box, I'm just tagging along in the back, stroking my cock through my supporting them as a friend. Once you win the minigame, the same process of marriage and honeymoon from Collection happens, as well as a new building opening. Mii Homes is great. It gives marriage some actual impact on the island and the married Miis themselves. Imagine if you were married to someone and you didn't even live in the same apartment. You just know she's having her tight hole plowed through every day. It's bullshit, no one does that. Married Miis will now move in together in a little house. They still keep their apartments, but will spend a lot of time in the house now, with a special icon on the apartment window for when they're out and in their house. All the houses have slightly different interiors, and they'll do stuff there like sleep and make food. They even have a bed they can fuck in. I don't know, I'm pretty out of it at this point. I want to talk about dreams now though, since I flew over them in my video on Collection. When Miis go to sleep at night, sometimes they'll have a dream. These are usually bizarre sort of skits or mini games, and at the end you'll get an item usually related to the dream. These honestly rule. Some of them are just meant to be funny, but there are some really cool surreal ones as well. I especially like the one where it's just 2 Miis in a car driving through a forest at night and arguing and stuff. They really nailed the look of driving a car at night here. I'm a sucker for foggy, dark sort of environments in general. As well as that, when the dream's done, you can also draw on the Mii's faces while they sleep. Unlike in Collection, marriage isn't the last step towards getting the credit sequence. In this game there's an extra stage to romance, raising a child. A married couple will have another heart icon on their window, and the Mii will literally ask you permission to fuck their wife. It takes a little while for this to come through, but after like 3 days you'll get a phone call. The phone is rarely used, only for stuff around children and on your birthday. After you get the call, they'll announce that they had a baby. This is probably the largest in scope and most detailed new feature added in Life. The baby will grow up over the course of a few days, and you help the parent look after it as it develops, with different mini-games and stuff as it grows. But first, you get to choose the baby's characteristics. They don't show you the baby right away, so whether it's a boy or a girl depends on what you'd prefer. You can also change parts of its appearance, like its hair, facial features, and race. Otherwise, it'll just have its face decided by a combination of what the parents look like. I usually go with this one since it produces the most interesting results. It's interesting seeing how the combined Mii's features look as they grow. You can also choose their personality or have it be decided by the game. Having a baby opens a new mode in the photo studio, another new building in Life. You can take pictures of your Mii's here either in small groups or of the whole island school yearbook style. In the new mode you can take pictures of the baby with their parents, put them into a cat outfit, it's a duck outfit. This is probably the least interesting addition to Life. The baby won't stop crying. I gotta go knock some sense into him. Where the fuck do you get off telling me what to do? Fuck you. They don't let you push in the baby's soft spot, get mad at you just for shaking him up a bit. What's this fucking world come to? Can't even beat my shit in public anymore. Fuck. Whatever, for this minigame you have to rock the baby up and down with the correct rhythm until it stops wailing. He uses the 3DS's gyro, so you have to rock the 3DS up and down physically, or just use the right mouse button in Citra. Once you find the right rhythm, if you keep at it for a little bit, the baby will stop crying. Sometimes the parents will call you to help calm the baby down, and if you do, they'll give you a reward afterwards. The pacing of the kid's growth is something I imagine was sort of hard to tackle for the devs. The game is pretty much entirely based on real time, but the baby obviously has to grow faster than that. The current system is paced out over the course of like 6 days. There's 3 stages with around 2 days each. Their appearance will also change slightly each day. Moving on to the next stage, you have to play peekaboo with them. It has a similar thing where you have to find the pattern of how long to hide your eyes for. And for the last stage, you can sling them around and smash their head against the concrete. They won't cry anymore, so there's no pattern you have to swing them at or anything like that. I think it's paced out pretty well. You can maybe add like 1 stage between a toddler and a fully grown adult, but 6 days is fine pacing. When the kid is growing, at least one parent will always be looking after it in the house at any one time, and they'll occasionally go out together on outings and stuff. I like this addition. It's probably my favorite new thing added to life. Watching it grow up is sweet, and the mini games are a nice change of pace. I haven't gone over everything yet though. On the last day, the Mii will be all grown and the Mii's parents will call you, asking what their child should do as an adult, stay on the island or become an explorer, and leave the island forever. Pretty extreme options here. I chose Traveler so they'd be trapped on my emulator island forever. I'm gonna talk about explorers for a bit, but before I do that, let me finish the kid stuff. After deciding what you want the kid to do, you get this album from the parents which triggers the game's credit sequence. It's a cute little collection of the parents raising their kid. It's a pretty good, satisfying ending to the game, especially compared to Collection. Obviously getting to the credits isn't a be-all end-all for a game like Tomodachi Life. There's still the Traveler stuff to go over. There's actually a decent amount here. It's sort of a shame that the feature is basically defunct now. There are still these 3 buildings over here I haven't talked about, so I might as well go over them briefly. This little plane off to the side here was for uploading screenshots you took in game to the internet. The shop here is where you could get items you got via Street Pass and Spot Pass. Street Pass still works, albeit limited, but all the Spot Pass shit is gone for good. If you want the clothes, you have to use a save editor. Lastly, the campsite is where travelers would stay on your island, which is kind of weird. Since they're travelers, you'd think they'd be staying in a caravan or maybe a trailer park. They'd visit your island for a day and have their own unique problems. You could help them by solving them, and they'd sell you unique food items and stuff in exchange. I can live without a few items or uploading pictures to the internet, but it's sort of a shame this feature is mostly overlooked, since it's a feature that actually has a lot of effort put into it. This is one of the game's earliest ideas, pitched all the way back in Tomodachi Collection's development, where they wanted to be able to let Miis go on an adventure. Now they just have to sit at the port doing nothing forever. In a future sequel, they should do that shit over the internet. That's everything covered for now though. I really do love this game. There isn't anything else like it. It genuinely feels like a real island with its own little ecosystem of stuff happening behind your 3DS screen, even when you're not there. I do understand mixed feelings on it though. It isn't really a game you sit down and play. It's something you check in on and play in small bursts of like 10 minutes or so. Basically, I'm saying if you don't like it, it's because you're playing it wrong and also you're retarded. In a way, it's sort of like a mobile game in that regard, except made with actual complete love and sincerity and taking full advantage of the medium. It's also controlled basically entirely with touchscreen. That isn't a backhanded compliment, by the way. The real reason why most mobile games suck is because they're designed around their shitty monetization. They're only made to get you to spend money. Dumb fucking gacha shit. Fuck. only benefit is a hot babe characters I can beat off to and cum all over my phone screen. I still think there are many places where improvements could be made to the game. It's been over a decade since it came out at this point, and the game sold well, like really well, especially for a first-time franchise in the West. It sold 6.72 million units, making it the 11th best-selling game on the 3DS, but it still hasn't been ported to the Switch or anything like that. People will say it's because of the gay shit, but I'm sort of skeptical about that. I don't think whatever dumb internet controversy there is over what they do would actually have an effect on the game's sales, and I like to think that in current year, people don't really give a shit anymore, at least about gay people. It didn't stop them re-releasing Miitopia, despite it not really being the same situation. I don't think it's as big of a deal as people make it out to be. The game would definitely turn a profit, which is what I think comes first. I'll hold out hope on it happening eventually. If they do something with it, I'd want it to be a sequel rather than a port or something. There's plenty they could do to improve on the game drastically. Adding new buildings is obvious, a school, pet store, office block or something. Add more variety and things to do so the game doesn't get stale as quickly. Just adding more stuff in general, like mini games, problems to solve, and interaction between Miis would be good. I think pacing the unlock of buildings out so that you're getting a steady stream of new content as you continue to play would be ideal. How fast you unlock stuff mostly depends on RNG, but there has to be something you can work out to make sure players aren't unlocking everything within like a week. It's very possible to unlock everything within like a few days in life, or be waiting months just if you get unlucky. It leads to boredom either way, so it's unideal. One common suggestion is having the ability to control a character. I think that's kind of retarded though. Why not also add a loan you can pay off and quirky animal villagers too? It would sort of just spoil what makes Tomodachi Life unique, and if you think this, you should be lobotomized. Okay, look. I do understand the desire to look around the island and have a little more interactivity. I've said it before, but being able to watch Miis walk around all of the island's locations is one of my favorite parts of the game. My compromise here is a little far-fetched, but who knows? Maybe Takahashi's watching this shit right now with a little like notepad or something. I think some sort of drone feature could work. This, you'd be able to fly around the island's locations and maybe take pictures of the Miis walking around and doing other things. The ability to take screenshots was already sort of emphasized in life, with dedicated screenshot buttons on a plane to upload them online. I think this would give the player enough feeling of control without breaking the barrier between you and the Miis, which I think is really important to keeping the game's unique identity. Regardless, I'll play whatever the fuck they put out. Even just adapting a game so heavily reliant on using touchscreen and the 3DS's dual screens to modern consoles would probably be a big challenge. If anything, that's probably the reason why they haven't gotten to it yet. Thanks a lot for listening to me ramble about it though. Okay, bye.